Hey guys, what's up? Welcome back to another video. Today, we are going to be talking about all of the books that I bought for my birthday. If you watched my previous video, we did go to New York City for my 30th birthday weekend with a bunch of family and had a really good time. We went to a bunch of bookstores, including the Strand, the Union Square Barnes & Noble. We went to a couple like quirkier ones that are less talked about, or at least that I haven't heard of. A lot of these I already had mentally on my like TBR, like books that I already knew that I was gonna read and like be interested in. But there are definitely some also that I've never heard of before, and I kind of just use this birthday as an excuse to try new things and hopefully discover new authors that I really love. So that is what we're gonna be talking about today. I have two massive bags. Oh my gosh, they're very heavy. I have two bags. This bag is books that I bought in New York City, and then this one are a bunch of books that I got before we went to New York City on just like a couple little bookstore trips here and there. And I did use my Christmas gift cards for most of those books. And that's usually how it plans out, because Christmas is in December, my birthday's in February. You usually get a bunch of Barnes & Noble gift cards for Christmas, and I just like hoard them all and then go book shopping for my birthday, and it's really fun. So let's go ahead and we'll just start talking about them in order, basically. Last time we were in New York City, we did go to the Strand, and I got this really fun tote, and I just love the design of this. I love like the old-timey New York feel. And so I got this tote, and I definitely used this tote last time to carry all my books home too, which I think is just hilarious. But these are all the books that I got in my like local bookstores before we went to New York City. And this one I actually read and finished this morning. This is Nine Goblins, A Tale of Low Fantasy and High Mischief by T. Kingfisher. T. Kingfisher is like one of my favorite like quirky fantasy, cozy fantasy authors. Like she's just so clever and witty and funny. And she always writes these cute little like novellas that are just fun. Basically, this was like a little short story about a band of goblins who, I don't know, just like you're kind of like thrown into this battle and into their minds, and you kind of follow them on this little side quest. They end up meeting a wizard that ends up portaling them into like another world or another area of their world, and they meet an elf, and like it's just really fun and random and cute, and it was a good time. And there's really cute illustrations in this book, and then the front is cute too. I bought this. I knew I was gonna read it pretty quickly. I have most of her little short stories like this. She'll just be one of my all-time favorite authors. I think Nettle and Bone is still probably one of my favorites by her though. And then I went to Barnes & Noble and I picked up Wrath of Dragons. I think this is second, maybe last installment of the Fear of the Flames or Fear of the Flames series or duology. And I read the first one when it was indie published, and I liked it. I really loved the found family that she created. I thought that she did a really good job as far as like creating this really comfortable, believable found family situation. And I loved the potential that that book had, but it definitely was not perfect. And then I've seen a lot of reviews as well saying that the traditionally published version is kind of the same, and I just realized that these had end papers. Holy heck. You have got to be kidding me. That is absolutely stunning. I wonder if the front's the same. Okay, and then the front is a map. I can't believe I missed that. Okay, so yeah, the first one was not great, but I've heard that the second one is much better. And I have been putting off reading it for a little while, but I trust the girlies that I saw that said that they really loved it and thought it was better than the first. So I think I'm just gonna dive into it at some point. It is a little bit longer. It's like, looks like maybe 500-600 pages or something. So we'll see when I get to this one, but I definitely wanted to have it on hand. Hey, buddy boy. Hotch is here to say hello. He's got his new toy. This is his new toy. He's working out now. He's gonna be squeaking that in the background. I hope you don't mind. And then this actually was some publisher mail that I got. I applied for it because it sounded really interesting. This is from Kensington Publishing, and it's called The Witching Hours by Heather Graham. From what I got from the blurb is that it's like a paranormal mystery thriller. And that is not usually my genre, but it sounded really interesting, and it's on the shorter side. So I don't know, I just like was in the mood to read something like this at the time, and I ended up getting selected for it. So that's kind of fun. And it was here when we got back from New York. So like another little, you know, birthday present or whatever. So yeah, I'm excited to try this one out and see what I think. And this one I'm very excited about. This also was here when we got back from New York, and this is a new release that I had ordered from the publishing website. This is called This Safe Darkness by Alexis Marigold. And not gonna lie, the cover is what initially like got my interest for this book, because I mean, how could it not? Sprayed edges too. I didn't realize it was gonna have sprayed edges. I originally saw the cover, started looking into it. It was pretty. Yeah, it just sounded like something that I'd be really interested in. It's kind of like your typical romantasy, but also not. Like, I just remember it having like a little bit of a different spin on it. I think maybe this was it. The female main character is older. She's 30 years old. Oriel Bryn knows the best way to avoid death is to play by the rules of a society that only values women as wives and wombs, though it would be nice to reclaim the dream life her ex-husband stole from her. Oriel would gladly settle for a loveless engagement that exempts her from being among the 10 unwed childless women drafted for the annual hunt, which already sounds really good. I remember seeing the author's like description of it, and I think that's what originally caught my eye. And it looks like there's some artwork in this book, which is very interesting. Everybody knows that I love art in my books, and it's very obscure art too. It looks just like a random landscape. And I don't know, I bought this while we were in New York City, so I was very much in the birthday mindset of just like treat yourself, and that's definitely what I did. So I also just realized that this artwork, the landscape looks like the sun is rising and getting brighter and brighter in each picture, so I'm curious if it's like you're following throughout like a 24-hour period or something. I don't know. But I'm very excited to try this book out. I've seen raving reviews already, so yeah, hopefully we'll be getting to that one, I don't know, soon. I have so many good books that I need to read though, so including this one, which I am very, very excited about. I also forgot to mention that this is a signed copy, and I had requested that she tell me her favorite quote in the whole book, and she told me her favorite quote and what line and what page. Oh, that all fell out, but it says, my favorite quote is on page 236, line 5, first 3 words, and then she underlined it for me, and I'll let you find that yourself if you have this book, and it can be our little secret. Okay, and then, yes, Daggermouth, wow, by H.M. Wolf. I did order this as the indie copy. I'm very excited to read it, and I'm honestly like very nervous because if you've seen this around, this is a massively hyped book right now, but it did sound very good, and it's dystopian as far as I know, and that is not usually like what I go for, but if it's a good book, like, I'm here for it. So I've heard this is really, really good read, and I'm really excited for it. And I'm really just wanted this massive like indie paperback, because these size paperbacks are so satisfying to hold and read. And I also have it on my Kindle too. So like sometimes these spines, when they crack, it damages like the pages, and the pages will start falling out over time. Yeah, so I got Daggermouth, dystopian fantasy, and I am extremely excited to own that book and read it soon. I know I'll be reading it this year. And then I did talk about this actually in my recent reading vlog. This is Kushiel's Dart by Jocelyn Carey. And this book I got at Barnes & Noble, and this quote on the front is what like really got me interested in this series. This is a trilogy. And it says, when love cast me out, it was cruelty who took pity on me. And apparently this is about that's right, she's trained in espionage and arts of the bedchamber. She's able to observe and analyze her clients in the throes of passion and learn their darkest secrets. One liaison reveals a plot that threatens the very foundation of Tierra d'Ange. Treachery sets her on her path. Love and honor goad her further. It will take her to the edge of despair and beyond. This just sounded really, really good. It sounded like it would be very Game of Thrones vibes, like mainly with like the politics and the like espionage, and I am just like really excited to try something out by an author I've never read before, and it just seemed really interesting. And I don't know, I just love any story that has to do with like an underestimated, underappreciated female who takes power and overthrows people who are oppressing her. So I'm here for that one. And then there's 3 more. in this bag. I guess we'll talk about the other book that I got while I was on that Barnes & Noble trip, and that is a paperback copy of The Testaments by Margaret Atwood. I want to read this soon. This is one of the 26 books I want to read in 2026. I already had the hardback, but I wanted a paperback I wanted a paperback copy to match the paperback copy. I said it again. Paperback copy to match the paperback copy that I already have of The Handmaid's Tale. Oh my gosh, why was that so hard to say? And then I have been very curious about Franz Kafka, and I saw this book by him. This is called The Trial, and I was looking for The Metamorphosis, which I did end up picking up. Spoiler, I got that actually in New York City. I don't know, that's in the bag somewhere, but we'll pull that one out. But this one I saw next to it, and so I read the back, and it's basically about a guy who's in a trial for a crime that he didn't commit, I think. Yeah, it says Kafka's gripping, unnerving parable about the nature of terror and the futility of human life is at once nightmarish and chillingly real. And then a quote at the top by Albert Camus, who wrote The Stranger, which I read this year, or last year. It is the fate and perhaps the greatness of this work that it offers everything and confirms nothing, which sounds so obscure. And I don't know, I did really like the cover as well. I don't know, it just seems something that's gonna make you think a lot, and I don't know, it sounds interesting. So I have been wanting to try his writing out for a little while now, and I'm gonna start with Metamorphosis first and then read that one after. And then another book that I also picked up at Barnes & Noble, I have never heard of this book before. This is called A Poisoner's Tale by Catherine Kemp. I just realized actually CJ Cook, that wrote The Lighthouse Witches, which I bought when we were in Canada, quoted it at the top, and she says, or he says, gorgeous, brimming with rich detail and intrigue. Sounds interesting. I think this is about a woman and her daughter who poisons people, and I think it's the story where like she's an apothecary or a witch or something like that, and she creates poisons and sells them to other women who are needing to, like, you know, poison somebody in their life that they don't care for or who that's hurting them or something like that. And I think that this is about that. And it says, based on a life of the real Giulia Tofana, thought to be the first female serial killer in history, A Poisoner's Tale is a story of magic, secrets, vengeance, and sin in the backstreets of Rome, and ultimately a fight for power. Which is why I bought this book, because that sounds so good, and it's a book that I've never heard of before, and I just love finding those little like gems in the rough where, I don't know, nobody's really talked about it, and it sounds really, really good, and so yeah, I'm excited for that. If you've read this book, you've heard of it before, let me know for sure. And if it's good, then I'll definitely look more into her writing. Now we'll get into the books that I bought in New York City. And I did get this bag while we were there because I needed something to carry around the city with me, because I didn't really think about it until I first found myself in the situation. I bought like 4 books and then ended up having to carry them around all day, and that just can be really painful. So I bought this nice little bag from Barnes & Noble. Okay, now this one I did not buy, actually. My little sister gave this to me. And, a little card, which I thought was so dang cute. Yeah, so my little sister gave this to me, and I think this is a memoir. This novel was never published in Simone de Beauvoir's lifetime. It tells the story of the real-life friendship that shaped one of the most important thinkers and feminists in the 20th century. So I remember now she was saying that this is kind of like a feminist story, and she knows me so well, and she lives in Germany right now. So I don't know, it's just like really special to get something from her. And there's pictures in the back. I didn't realize that. I don't read a lot of memoirs, but if I'm gonna read one, it's gonna be the one that my little sister gave me, which her birthday was also, my birthday was on Valentine's Day the 14th, and hers is on the 16th, which I always thought was kind of fun growing up. It's gonna be in order of the bookstores that we went to. So the first bookstore that was like super close to our hotel was McNally Jackson Bookstore in Seaport, and I only got one book there, and that was Blue Sisters by Coco Mellers. I also got this cute little bookmark. Most people have probably heard of this book. This is also a signed copy, which is one of the reasons why I wanted to get it. I don't know, I love a good signed copy, and I just think it's like really special, and now it kind of has like a story of like where I got it. And I've been wanting to read this book for a while, and I also have Cleopatra and Frankenstein as well on my shelf, so I'll read one of these first. I've just been really curious about her writing because I do enjoy general fiction or like literary fiction every now and then, like in between fantasy and stuff, and I definitely love stories about like sisters and sisterhood and girlhood and stuff, and I'm pretty sure this book is kind of like about that, so I am very excited to try this one out. I'm not sure if I'll read this one or Cleopatra and Frankenstein first, but honestly I'm kind of more excited about Blue Sisters, so maybe I'll start with that one. And then the next 4 or 5 actually are from Barnes & Noble and Union Square. So the first book that I got there was Animal Farm, and there might be a little bit of a trend of books that I've picked up recently. I've just been picking up a lot of like classics and banned books, and like, I don't know, books that like have a little bit more meaning to them to have in between all of my fantasies, and kind of I like sprinkling those types of books in between like reading fantasy books. And I have read this before. I think it was like in my early days in like high school, or even what's before high school, middle school. I can't remember when I read it, but I do remember reading it, and it was just so vague for me. I don't think I understood like really what I was reading, and so I definitely want to reread it as an adult and just kind of like get, you know, what it's trying to say. And if you've never heard of Animal Farm or George Orwell before, that is definitely a classic book, and one that I'm pretty sure has been banned, as well as this one as well. And this one's called Brave New World by Aldous Huxley. I wasn't interested in it until recently, and I just kept seeing it around, and it's got like this really interesting cover, and so I wanted to look into it a little bit more to like kind of understand what it's about. And I'm pretty sure it's about like some alternate future where humans are genetically bred and pharmaceutically anesthetized to passively serve a ruling order, a powerful work of speculative fiction that has enthralled and terrified readers for generations. It remains remarkably relevant to this day as both warning to be heeded as we head into tomorrow, and as thought-provoking, satisfying entertainment. So that is why I picked it up, and it just sounds interesting, and I've never read their writing before, so I'm curious about what that is about. I also like starting with classics or banned books or books kind of like that where you're supposed to take something from it on a shorter side. Like for me to hold my interest and like keep me reading it, I prefer a shorter book, and so those are the types of books that I'll go for first. And I feel like eventually I'll start like picking up the longer ones, but I just want to like take them in like smaller amounts, if that makes sense, just to keep me wanting to keep picking books like that up. I don't know if anybody else feels that way, but that's just at least how I feel. And then this one was kind of like a random book that I've never really heard of before. I've definitely seen it. I've seen this cover before, and this is called Once Was Willem by M.R. Carey. The front says, a masterpiece of medieval dark fiction, a wild fever dream, monstrous and beautiful. And that just sounds so up my alley right now. A wildly original and enthralling dark medieval fantasy, unlike anything you've read before, a fable of twisted folklore, macabre magic, and the strangest of found families. And I'm very interested in that. Sounds really good. Just sounds like it'll be really interesting, really fun, very unique, probably not like something I've read before, so I was really excited to pick this one up. And this is called The Witches of New York by Ami McKay, and I've never heard of her before. I've never seen this book before, and to be honest, I picked this up because there's witches and it's New York, and I was really hoping to find some like New York flavored books while we were there. Honestly, this is like exactly that. So New York in the spring of 1880 is a place alive with wonder and curiosity. Seances are the entertainment of choice in exclusive social circles, and many enterprising women, some possessed of true intuitive powers and some gifted with the art of performance, find work as mediums. At their humble tea shop, Tea and Sympathy, Adelaide Tom and Eleanor St. Clair provide a place for whispered confessions, secret cures, and spiritual assignations for a select society of ladies who speak the right words and ask the right questions. But not even they can prepare Beatrice for the evils lurking in the darkest corners of the city, or give her the courage it will take to face them. I've never heard of it before. I found the cover very interesting, and the story sounds like it'd be really interesting. That definitely sounds like a book that would be good to read in the fall time, spooky season time. but you could read that at any time as well. The next book that I got was All the Seas of the World by Guy Gavriel Kay. And it says tragic, stirring, romantic, meticulous, comic, rueful, worldly wise, classic Kay. So that just sounds really good. Really the only thing that I know about this or can remember from reading the description is that it's like a quest themed fantasy, and those are my absolute favorite types of fantasies are quests. Yeah, I'll just read kind of like the first little paragraph here. On a dark night along a lonely stretch of coast, a small ship sends two people ashore. Their purpose is assassination. They have been hired by two of the most dangerous men alive to alter the balance of power in the world. If they succeed, the consequences will affect the destinies of empires and lives, both great and small. All the Seas of the World is a page-turning drama that also offers moving reflections on memory, fate, and the random events that can shape our lives in the past and in today. So this is another one of those books that I've never heard of before, but sounds really, really good. Sounds like a quest, which is something I really love. And then also just like the cover was really curious. And I also really love any type of ocean, island, boat setting. And that just sounds like it's kind of right up all of his alleys. Okay, so that was all at the Barnes & Noble in Union Square. And then the next few are gonna be from the Strand, which I have a love-hate relationship with the Strand. The Strand is so cool because of all the tall shelves and everything, but every time we go, it's a weekend day and it's absolutely packed with people. And it kind of can just like, as an introvert, it kind of just it doesn't ruin the experience, but it just makes it a little bit less calming and cozy, if you know what I mean. And that is just why I go to a bookstore, is to be calm and cozy. So I'll show you the couple little stickers that I got. Got this little sticker. The Strand has so many cool things. They've got stickers, postcards, they've got bookmarks, and they have a bunch of little souvenirs and like bags and tote bags and stuff. And so it's kind of funny. They gave me like, I don't know, 12 bookmarks. These are like the free ones that they put in all the books that you buy. So I got those. And then also in one of the books, I actually found this little postcard or picture tucked in the book. I don't know what, this was just inside one of the books that I bought as a surprise. I don't know what it's from, but on the top it says 9762 and then unique photograph Fred Cray is kind of like embossed on the back of it. So I don't know, that was kind of interesting. I don't know if somebody just like put it in the book and was hoping somebody would find it, or if somebody was like trying to steal it. I don't know, but yeah, that was in this book when I got home and found out. This is called Never Let Me Go by, I'm going to butcher this, Kazu Ishiguro. And I had not really had this book on my mental TBR until I was at Barnes & Noble one day and just like was like perusing and reading the back books and stuff, and this one sounded really interesting. And it was also in the dark academia section, in the fantasy section, so that also intrigued me. And I'm pretty sure this is a story about like 3 girls who are being brought up in like a orphanage or boarding school, and they have like abusive teachers or something, and I don't know, you're just kind of like in their world. I'm pretty sure it's like a literary fiction. I don't think it's a fantasy. Okay, so on this paragraph it says, now years later, Kathy's a young woman. Ruth and Tommy have re-entered her life, and for the first time she's beginning to look back at their shared past and understand just what it is that makes them so special and how that gift will shape the rest of their time together. Suspenseful, moving, beautifully atmospheric, is a classic by the author of The Remains of the Day. And then at the top, the New York Times says, a gothic tour de force, a tight, deftly controlled story, just as accomplished as The Remains of the Day, and in a very different way, just as melancholy and alarming. I'm pretty sure this is gonna be a book that makes me cry, and so when I'm looking for a book to make me cry and still be interesting at the same time, I'm going to pick this one up. The last 2 books that I got at the Strand was The Haunting of Hill House by Shirley Jackson. This, I don't even know if I've seen the movie, but I definitely am someone who wants to read the book before the movie. And this just kind of looks a little creepy and kind of scary and mysterious, and I'm super excited for that. So I'm trying to pick classic books that have a little hint of like horror or a little hint of fantasy or fiction to it, because I think those are the ones that are gonna really hold my interest. And I'm, like I said, trying to take them in small bits and pieces before I can really develop my palette, I think, for classics. And I think that this is gonna be a good way to do that. So The Haunting of Hill House, I'm excited to read that one. It looks really creepy, and I guess it's my mom's favorite movie. And then I picked up If We Were Villains by Emil Rio. This book is, from what I've heard, a dark academia. It's really, really good, is what everybody says. Everybody just says it's really good, and I haven't really heard anything else about that or about the story, and I don't really want to look into it, to be honest. I think I want to go into this one blind because it's very obscure. The cover I've heard is really poetic. Everybody loves the writing style, and it's definitely one that people are like preferring to read in the fall, winter. So maybe I'll wait. Maybe I'll just pick it up whenever it feels right, but this is a really well-loved book, and so I don't want to not like it. I think I'm gonna really like it though. So then we have 3 more books in this pile, and we have 2 more bookstores that I went to. So just kidding, I lied. I got 1 more book at the Strand, and that was Victorian Psycho by Virginia Fiedo. Don't look at this cover and tell me that it's not intriguing. Like, it just seems so weird and scary, honestly, with this like little girl or this doll on the cover. And I'm pretty sure it's supposed to be like a comedic horror or something like that. I'm really not sure, but the description of it sounded really interesting. The cover is really intriguing, and it's on the shorter side. So all of those things come together and makes me want to try out a new author and a new style book. So it says, from the acclaimed author of Miss March comes the riveting tale of a bloodthirsty governess who learns the true meaning of vengeance. And there's a couple reviews. By drawing from the roots of the Gothic, Virginia Fiedo seems to have invented an entirely new kind of storytelling. From the first to the last line, this novel is nothing less than a masterpiece. So yes, say less. I'm super excited for this one. I kept seeing it around everywhere too. It must be a new release or something, but it was at every single bookstore that I went to. And so after seeing it so much, I had to pick it up. So yeah, so this was the last one that we got at the Strand. And then we went to another bookstore called Drama Bookstore, which had this really beautiful display of like a book spiral. If you watched my video, you would have seen it. But that store was mainly like scripts and plays and stuff like that. They had a lot of really interesting and cool books, like the Stranger Things scripts, but this is not really like my type of reading that I do, but it was just really cool to be there and see it. Also really cool atmosphere. We went to the last bookstore, which was 3 Lives and Company, which was a really cool store, but it was very small. This is the bookmark that they gave me. And yeah, this is the last bookstore that we went to on the last day. I picked up 2 books there. The first one that I got was Metamorphosis by Franz Kafka, which I already kind of talked about. And this is the first book of his that I want to try. The words are nice and big, and it's a very short, it's like probably about 100 pages. I don't really even know what it's about. I just know that this is kind of like one of the main ones that I've heard people talk about when they talk about him. And I've seen it so many times and pick it up and carry it around the bookstore so many times for like years and just never ended up buying it. And I bought it for my birthday now. And I'm very happy that I did. I'm probably gonna try and read this actually soon, like the next few weeks, because it's so short. I could read this in a morning. A classic 1915 novella of an unexplained horror and nightmarish transformation remains a century later one of the most widely read works of fiction in the world. It is the story of traveling salesman Gregor Samsa, who wakes one morning to find himself transformed into some sort of monstrous insect. This hugely influential work, inspired by George Orwell, Albert Camus, George Borges, and Ray Bradbury, while continuing to unsettle millions of readers. Yeah, I don't know, I just feel like this is one of those books that I feel like I need to read before I die. So here we are. And then the very last book that I picked up was The Salt Grows Heavy by Cassandra Cow. And I have not heard of this book at all. I've never seen it before until New York City, and I kept seeing it everywhere. I really saw this like at every single bookstore, and I've never seen it before. So, or heard of it. No one's talked about it. So yeah, anyway, so this book is short, which I always love a short little like quirky fantasy novella. And then the very first little paragraph here says, a dark, romantic, and bewitching fairy tale of discovering the darkness in the world and the darkness within oneself. Quote on the top says, a feverishly gory, grotesquely beautiful, and baroque fairy tale meets love sonnet, which sounds really interesting. So I'm not gonna read the blurb because it's so short that like, I don't know, I don't want to read anything that might give things away. Also, let me know if you've heard or seen this book around at all, because I would be really curious if it's just me who's completely missed it and it's been around this whole time, or if it's like a new release or something that was released on the weekend or something like that. But yeah, those are all the books that I got. Let's see, including the ones that I got here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22 books. There's no way I'm gonna be able to hold all these books up. Can we try? Here they are. These are all the books that I got for my birthday and using my birthday gift cards and on our trip to New York City. I'm very, very excited to read all of these. Hopefully find some new favorite authors and new favorite books this year. So this is gonna be one of probably the last book hauls that I do for the year because I recently did another book haul like a few videos ago and that was also a pretty massive book haul. So I'm going to lay low probably for a little while and just focus on reading the books that I have right now because I have plenty to choose from. And yeah, thank you guys so much for being here and for watching this video and just supporting me and letting me talk about all my favorite things in the world, which is just books and reading. I hope you guys have been having a wonderful week and weekend, and I will see you guys in the next video very soon. Bye guys.